Nobody sat you down and told you it was over. There was no meeting with HR, no formal conversation, no written warning that said your time here is ending. Instead, something quieter happened. The interesting projects stopped landing on your desk. The meetings you used to be invited to started happening without you. Your manager's tone shifted from engaged to polite, the kind of polite that means nothing and costs nothing. And you could feel it. Something had changed, but you could not prove it because nothing that happened looked wrong. That is not a coincidence. That is quiet firing, and it is designed to look exactly like nothing. There are 5 specific signs that a company is pushing you to quit instead of firing you. And the last one is the reason your manager suddenly got nice to you. Here's why companies do this instead of just firing you directly. A formal termination is expensive. It requires documentation, an HR process, legal review, potential severance, and the risk that the terminated employee files a claim. A resignation costs the company almost nothing. No severance in most cases, no legal exposure, no documentation burden, no record of a firing that could be questioned later. The institution has a massive financial incentive to make you quit rather than formally letting you go, and quiet firing is the mechanism that achieves this. The system does not push you out with hostility. It pushes you out with absence, the slow, deliberate removal of everything that made the role worth staying in until the only rational decision left is to leave on your own. Counting down from 5. Sign number 5. Your responsibilities are shrinking. This is usually the first move and the most difficult to detect because it happens gradually and always comes with a reasonable explanation. A project gets reassigned because someone else has more bandwidth. A responsibility shifts because of a team restructure. A client relationship gets transferred for strategic alignment purposes. Each individual change has a justification that makes sense on its own. But when you look at the full pattern across 3 months, the direction is clear. Your scope is getting smaller while your title stays the same. This looks like the month you realized you went from owning 4 client accounts to owning 1, and nobody asked whether you wanted the change. The takeaway, if your scope has reduced twice in the same quarter without you requesting it, document the pattern and request a meeting specifically about role scope, not performance. Sign number 4, you have been moved off visible work. There is a critical difference between having your workload reduced and having your visibility reduced. The first sign was about scope, how much work you do. This sign is about type, what kind of work you do. When a company is quiet firing you, they move you off the projects that have leadership attention and onto work that is necessary but invisible. Maintenance tasks, internal documentation, legacy systems, anything that keeps you busy without putting your name in front of anyone who makes decisions about your future. This looks like the week you realized every project with a senior sponsor had been reassigned and your calendar was full of tasks that would never be mentioned in a leadership meeting. The takeaway, track whether the work you are being given has leadership visibility or not, because the type of work you are assigned determines whether you exist in the promotion conversation or have been quietly removed from it. They do not want to fire you, they want you to fire yourself. Sign number 3, feedback disappeared completely. This is the sign that confuses most people because silence from a manager can mean 2 very different things, and most professionals assume the wrong one. When your manager gives you regular feedback, even critical feedback, it means they are invested in your development. Negative feedback is uncomfortable, but it signals that someone is paying attention and wants you to improve. When feedback stops entirely, no criticism, no praise, no development conversations, no course corrections, it does not mean they trust you to handle things on your own. It means they have stopped investing in your trajectory because your trajectory inside this organization is no longer part of their plan. This looks like the monthly one-on-one that used to last 45 minutes and now lasts 12. And the agenda is entirely status updates with no mention of growth, development, or next steps. The takeaway, and if your manager has stopped giving you developmental feedback of any kind for more than 6 weeks, request it directly in writing and watch how they respond, because the response will tell you whether they are still invested or have already moved on from you internally. Sign number 2, your manager stopped fighting for you. Every manager in every organization fights for resources on behalf of their team, budget, headcount, tools, project assignments, training opportunities. When your manager is invested in your future, some of that fighting happens on your behalf specifically. They advocate for your development, they push for your inclusion on visible projects, they spend political capital arguing that you should be considered for the next opportunity. When quiet firing begins, that advocacy stops. Not with an announcement, with a quiet redirection of effort toward the team members who are staying. This looks like the budget conversation where your training request was deferred for the 3rd quarter in a row while your colleague's certification got approved immediately. And your manager's only explanation was timing. The takeaway: when your manager stops fighting for your resources, your budget line, or your development opportunities, they have already made their internal assessment about your future, and it does not include you at the next level. But none of these compare to sign number one, and this is the one that confuses almost everyone who experiences it, because it feels like things are getting better. The decision was made weeks ago. Everything since then is choreography. Sign number one: they suddenly got nice. Your manager used to challenge you. They used to push back on your work, question your approach, hold you to standards that felt demanding, but that also communicated genuine investment in your output. And then one week the pressure just stopped. They became friendlier, more accommodating, less interested in the details. They stopped holding you accountable in the ways that used to frustrate you, and it felt like relief. It was not relief. It was the emotional signature of a decision that has already been made. When a manager has decided you are leaving but the exit has not been formalized yet, they emotionally decouple from the management relationship. They stop investing energy in correcting your trajectory because your trajectory inside this organization is already over in their mind. The friendliness is not a sign that things have improved. It is the specific warmth of someone who has already let go and is now simply managing the gap between the decision and the departure. This looks like the week your manager stopped caring about a deadline you missed, and instead of relief, something in your stomach told you that the absence of pressure was worse than the pressure ever was. The takeaway: sudden warmth from a manager who used to push you hard is a diagnostic signal, not a reward. If the pressure disappeared without you doing anything differently, the most likely explanation is not that they decided you were good enough. It is that they decided you were leaving and adjusted their emotional investment accordingly. Here's the honest closing. Quiet firing works because it gives you nothing to fight. There is no moment where someone says your job is in danger. There is no document you can challenge. There is no hostile act you can report. There is only the slow, systematic removal of everything that made the role worth staying in, and the expectation that you will eventually do the rational thing and leave on your own, saving the company the cost and the risk of doing it formally. The 5 signs are not evidence that you are paranoid. They are evidence that a process is already running. Do not resign before you understand what you are giving up by resigning, and because the difference between a resignation and a termination is worth thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, and the company is counting on you not knowing that. I break down the exact severance math and why walking away costs you more than you think in the next video. The exit is coming, and the only question is whether you control it or they do.